She made a tennis legend say, "I'm all in." And what happens next could change her life forever. An arena built for boxing and basketball is packed to the walls. 8,000 people. Not for a final. Not for a trophy. For a fourth-round tennis match happening 7,000 miles away, in the middle of the night on the other side of the planet. A former world number one sees the footage, and instead of shrugging it off the way legends usually do, he stops mid-sentence on his own podcast and says 4 words that tennis fans have not stopped repeating since, "I'm all in." But here's the part nobody is talking about. The same wave of love that is turning a 21-year-old into a national symbol might also be the exact thing that breaks her. Because the closer you look at her story, the more you realize this isn't just a feel-good sports moment. It's a countdown. Every match from here adds more weight to her shoulders, and somewhere down the line, something has to give. Stick with me to the end, because the answer to what happens next is more complicated and more dramatic than anyone expected. Before we go further, if stories like this keep you hooked, hit subscribe now, because we're about to break down exactly how far this can go and what it could cost her. Let's rewind to the moment this all really started, because it did not begin with a trophy. It began with a wild card. In the spring of 2025, a 20-year-old ranked number 140 in the world walked into the Miami Open with almost nothing expected of her. She had 2 career wins on the main WTA Tour. 2. She was not seeded. She was not on anyone's radar outside of a small circle of tennis insiders who had heard whispers about a left-handed teenager training at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain. Nobody predicted what was about to happen. She beat Jelena Ostapenko, a former Grand Slam champion. Then she beat Madison Keys, another Grand Slam champion. Then, on one of the biggest courts in the sport, she beat Iga Swiatek, the world number 2 at the time. A wild card, ranked outside the top 100, had just taken down 3 players with major titles between them, becoming the first Filipino to ever reach the semifinals of a WTA 1000 event. She would eventually fall just short of the final in a brutal 3-set battle. But by then it did not matter. The name Eala had already exploded across the tennis world. Here's the question that started forming right then, one that would follow her for the next year. Was this a lightning-in-a-bottle week? Or was this the arrival of something the sport had not seen in a long time? Because Eala's story does not start in Miami. It starts on the other side of the world, years earlier, when she was a small girl in Quezon City who picked up a racket at 4 years old. Her mother had represented the Philippines in swimming. Athletic ability ran in the family, but tennis was different. The Philippines had never produced a true contender on the sport's biggest stages. At 13, Alex left home to train at the Rafael Nadal Academy, trading a normal childhood for early mornings, foreign coaches, and a sport where almost nobody who looked like her or came from where she came from had made it to the top. She won the US Open girls singles title as a junior in 2022. She appeared on the cover of Vogue Philippines. But none of that prepared the tennis world, or her home country, for what was coming. After Miami, the story could have quietly faded the way so many breakout weeks do. Instead, it kept climbing. At the Eastbourne Open that June, she reached her first WTA Tour final, becoming the first Filipina to do so. She actually held 4 championship points in the deciding set, for chances to win her first tour title. She could not convert a single one, and Australia's Mania Joint escaped with the trophy in a heartbreaking 3-set final. It should have been a crushing setback. Instead, her ranking rose to a career-high number 56, and something strange happened. The support did not shrink after the loss. It grew. Then came the moment that turned a rising storyline into something close to a phenomenon. At the US Open that August, Eala had never won a single match in a Grand Slam main draw. Not one. She had lost in the first round at both the French Open and Wimbledon earlier that year. Now she faced Clara Tauson, the 14th seed, in front of a crowd inside the grandstand that was overwhelmingly, unmistakably behind her. Flushing sits near one of the largest Filipino communities in New York, and that crowd showed up. She took the first set. Tauson battled back and leveled the match. Then, in the deciding set, everything fell apart. Eala found herself down 1-5, one game away from elimination. one game away from another first-round Grand Slam exit that would have quietly ended the summer's hype. The match, by every normal measure, was over. She did not fold. She won the next 5 games in a row to level the set, forced a tiebreak, saved multiple match points against her, and finally closed it out 6-3, 2-6, 7-6, 11, becoming the first Filipino player in the Open era to win a Grand Slam main draw match. She collapsed onto the court in tears. "I'm so blessed to be the first to do this," she said afterward. "I take so much pride in representing my country. It makes what I do bigger than myself." That comeback did something important. It proved she could survive when everything looked finished. It also planted an expectation in the minds of every fan watching. She can escape anything. That sounds like a superpower. Can also become a trap because now every time she falls behind, thousands of people expect a miracle, and miracles, by definition, cannot happen on command. Then came Wimbledon, and this is where the story stopped being just a tennis story. She arrived as the 29th seed, the first Filipino player ever seeded at a Grand Slam. She opened with a win over Renata Zarazua. In the second round, she dropped the first set to Maya Joint before storming back to win, becoming the first player from the Philippines in the Open era to reach the third round of a major. Then, on center court, she walked out to face the defending Wimbledon champion, Iga Swiatek, again, building. She climbed the rankings. She won WTA 125 level titles. She sharpened her grass court game, even training and playing doubles alongside Wimbledon royalty like Venus Williams. By the time Wimbledon 2026 arrived, something that would have sounded absurd a year earlier had become official. Alexandra Eala was seeded 29th, the first Filipino player ever seeded at a Grand Slam. Think about what that actually means. A country of more than 100 million people, with no tennis tradition to speak of, suddenly had a face. A real one. A young woman who trained after school with her grandfather, who left home at 13, who survived years of obscurity, now walking into the most historic, most tradition-bound tournament in the sport. Round 1. Alex faced Renata Zarazua of Mexico. She was sharp from the very first point, breaking early and closing it out 6-1, 6-2 in just over an hour. It was her first ever main draw win at Wimbledon, and the first main draw singles win by any Filipino player in the tournament's history. For most players, that milestone alone would be the story of the week. Alex barely paused to enjoy it. Round 2 brought a familiar and painful name, Maya Joint of Australia, the same player who had denied Alex a maiden WTA title the year before at Eastbourne, coming back from a set down and saving 4 championship points to do it. This time, the match started just as ominously. Alex dropped the first set 3-6. It looked, for a moment, like it might be Eastbourne all over again. Then something clicked. Alex responded by winning the second set 6-2, and then delivered a complete bagel in the third 6-0 to close it out. Revenge, delivered in the most emphatic way possible. She was through to the third round, the first Filipino singles player in the Open era to ever get that far at a major. And waiting for her, there was Iga Swiatek. Now, this was not Miami. Miami had been a hard court, a breakout, a surprise nobody saw coming. This was center court at Wimbledon, the most famous tennis court on earth, against the defending champion, the woman who had obliterated her way to the title the year before with a 6-0, 6-0 demolition in the final. Swiatek knew exactly who Alex was this time. There would be no surprise factor. Just 2 players who already knew what the other was capable of. The first set was brutal, tense, physical. It dragged on and on, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes. Neither player able to fully pull away. Swiatek pushed. Alex answered. And it all came down to a tiebreak that turned into the emotional center of the entire match. Alex raced out to a lead. Swiatek clawed back. Swiatek then had not one, but 2 set points to close it out and seize control of the match. Alex saved both. At 9-all in the tiebreak, she found one more gear, then another, and finally, after an 84-minute opening set, she claimed it 7-6, 11 points to 9. Somewhere in that set, a visibly frustrated Swiatek was seen hurling her racket into her bag. Once Alex survived that set, the entire complexion of the match changed. She stormed out to a 4-0 lead in the second set. Swiatek, being Swiatek, clawed back to 4-2, refusing to fold quietly. But Alex held her nerve, closing it out 6-2 to complete a stunning 7-6, 6-2 victory, ending the defending champion's title defense in the third round, in front of a center court crowd that had turned entirely into a sea of noise and Filipino flags. And then she fell to her knees. Not a rehearsed celebration, not a polished TV moment. She simply collapsed under the weight of what had just happened. Because this wasn't only about beating a 6-time major champion for the second time in 16 months. This was every lonely year in Spain arriving at once. The 13-year-old who left home. The grandfather who taught her that if you want it, you work for it. The ranking outside the top 100 that once made the whole dream feel uncertain. In her on-court interview, barely able to hold it together, Alex tried to explain what the moment meant. She said that for a player like Iga who has won so many Grand Slams, or someone like Serena or Venus Williams, a win like this might look small in the grand scheme of a career. But for a girl who grew up in the Philippines, she couldn't even finish the sentence before the tears took over completely. This win made her the first Filipina in history to reach the second week of a Grand Slam tournament. And it was, remarkably, her 7th career win over a top 10 opponent. But here's what made Alex Eala different from a typical feel-good underdog story. She didn't sound like someone ready to coast on one emotional afternoon. Even mid-interview, still crying, she made it clear she had another match to play. Jasmine Paolini, the number 13 seed and a former Wimbledon finalist, was waiting in the 4th round. And that match, 4 days later, is where the fairy tale finally met its limit. Paolini came out firing, racing to a 4-1 lead in the first set. Alex clawed back to 5-4, but Paolini held to take the set 6-4. Alex regrouped in the second, ripping off 3 straight games from 3-2 down to seize control, and served it out 6-4 to force a decider. The third set stayed locked at 3-3 before Paolini's experience finally showed, closing out the match 6-3 to end Alex's Wimbledon run after 2 hours and 22 minutes on center court. It was a loss, but it was the kind of loss that only comes from getting further than anyone from your country ever has before. Alex Eala left Wimbledon 2026 as the first Filipina to reach the 4th round of a Grand Slam, having beaten a defending Wimbledon champion along the way, in a run that took her from a 13-year-old crying herself to sleep in a foreign country to the second week of the most famous tournament on earth. And maybe that's why this whole story hits differently than the usual shock upset headline. Upsets happen in sports all the time. A favorite has a bad day, an underdog catches fire, the clip goes viral, and the tour just moves on. This wasn't that. This was a full-circle moment, 16 months in the making, from a wild card in Miami to center court at Wimbledon. Because when this win landed back home, it wasn't just national pride. It was permission. Permission for a young girl in Manila, in Cebu, in Davao, anywhere in the Philippines to pick up a racket and believe this sport could belong to her too. Permission for parents to believe that tennis isn't reserved only for countries with decades of infrastructure and tradition behind it. Alex Eala isn't the next Iga Swiatek. She isn't the next anyone. She's the first Alexandra Eala, the first seeded Filipino player at a Grand Slam, the first to win a main draw match at Wimbledon, the first to reach the second week of a major. And firsts carry a particular kind of weight. They come loaded with expectation, with pressure, with a whole country watching every single point. But tennis doesn't care how emotional the last win was. The next opponent doesn't care about the childhood story. The tour just keeps moving, and the ball keeps coming back. That's exactly why this isn't the end of the story. It's the second chapter. The first chapter was the moment nobody expected. The second is what she does now that everyone is watching. Underneath the seating, the history-making run, the tears on center court, she's still that same kid, the one in ruffled socks and light-up shoes, trying to beat her brother after school, listening to her grandfather tell her the same thing over and over. If you want it, you work for it. That sentence followed her all the way from a small court in Quezon City to center court, Wimbledon. And on the 4th of July 2026, when she dropped to her knees in front of the entire tennis world, it finally looked like the world understood